Okay, so just to recap where we are. So we started off by looking at the arithmetic part, where it's more like the fundamentals of programming, where we began by looking at variables, and then we looked at arrays. We looked at how to manipulate arrays and how to make use of arrays and variables in our program, because that's the fundamental concept of programming. All right, you're actually assigning a value and it remembers the value so that you can continue to do other things. Then we went on to look at logical operators. Without any logic, no decision can be made. My idea or thoughts in the future would be that using an if statement will not be sufficient. We probably need some machine to learn and then decide. Things are not going to be as black and white as if yes or if no. So things are going to become more complex. So that is why we did a bit of machine learning to make machines to decide on based on statistics and probabilities to find the best possible answer. But again, we still need to know the basics of how logic works, like for example, AND function, OR function. These are important things. And then on the third lesson, I think this is where I want the students to understand that mathematics is not just about counting. It's not about minus and plus and multiplication. It's about the entire number system. Okay, it is from the beginning and the end of infinity, and you have to apply your mathematics on the entire number system. You can't just take pockets of it. All right, so that is where the concept of squares, roots, cubes and all come from, because it is applying itself onto the entire number system. So when you take a problem, you must apply it, you must apply whatever you're doing onto the entire problem, not on pockets, not on, you don't go and massage the data to, behave the way you want it to, because then it doesn't become real, right? So when you want to do something real in mathematics, you have to apply it onto the entire number system. So, so if it works for small values, it should work for large values. If it works for large values, it must work for small values. That's what I mean by the entire number system. So that's when you start to figure out, how algorithms work. They're all kind of repetitive in terms of their approach, or have such a certain amount of a pattern to it. Okay, so one of the most important things that I think it's not taught in schools is to recognize patterns, and we do that all the time. Human beings are built based on patterns. All right, patterns in behavior, patterns in pictures, patterns in facial structure. We remember friends because we remember their face structure, the patterns of their face. We are very quickly to be very, it's not good, but we were very quickly to classify people in certain ways because of certain patterns that we recognize. So this pattern recognition instinct is already built in, and we need to bring it out in a more positive way. And what I'm saying is that there are patterns in maths. And that is where the creativity becomes a second nature. You are able to be creative in mathematics because you can see patterns. So that, and one of the tools that we use is algebra. Okay, algebra is a tool that allows us to apply patterns or filters on top of our data set. Okay, you can call it a filter, you can call it a kernel, you can call it a pattern, you can call it an algorithm, whatever it is. We are just applying it onto the entire data set. So when you see this multiplication sign on the computer, it's actually a pattern that is being applied to any number. All right, so you can see how we have progressed by teaching a computer to do simple arithmetics. Now we have gone quite far ahead. And then we went on to the second part, which talks about probability and statistics. This was one of the most boring topics I ever studied in maths. I could never understand why we need to learn the statistics and probability. But then now when I looked at it the second time around, it was amazing because now I can predict. Now I have at least a probability to tell me what is going to be the event that is going to happen. And then I started to study it further, and it started to make a lot of sense. And but of course, it can also tell you what is not there. So you have to be very clear as to what the probability statement is actually saying. And in machine learning today, we use probability and statistics in two ways. Okay, so that is why it's important to cover probability and statistics, because if we want to when we have data, we want to make sure the data is good or reasonably good. And how we do that is use statistics and probability. All right, so that's the first part. Then the second part, we use probability and statistics again to ensure that our predictions are correct. So if our predictions are generally bad, then the probability is very low. So we also evaluate the model using probability and statistics. So that is the importance of probability and statistics today. All right. So you can also use it in your daily life into making sure that your decision to do whatever has got a good probability and is statistically driven. All right. So we played around with certain libraries like pandas to handle data. And in my view, 85% of projects fail because people don't understand how to use pandas or don't understand how to handle the data. So data handling is very important. So that is one part, handling the data. Then there comes another part, visualizing the data or seeing it for yourself. Are there anomalies? Is it distributed well? Is it skewed? All these things you need to know about your data set by using graphing and plotting tools. So that is where Python's matplot library, Seaborn, all of this comes in, because it really helps you to visualize your data, to see it for yourself, whether you are in good standing. Then I have also added on functions, classes, and objects, because I need you to be more organized in your development. That means whenever you write new code, it's code that you've never written before. Never write the same code twice. That's my philosophy. I'm a big fan of rock music. As you can see, my shirt is like hard rock, right? And one of the bands was Deep Purple. And there was a lead guitarist called Blackmore, Richie Blackmore. Or no, yeah. And he always had one motto in his mind all the time when he played a song. He said, never play the same song the same way twice. He always tried to innovate the same song. I could never realize that he did that, but eventually he just kept on getting better and better and better and better. So that is the fundamental use of Python. Python requires you to write code that is always new, so that you can leverage on the old, and you're not writing new code all the time. You're just writing more code, because you write it in a proper function, and then you put it in a class, create an object. You can reuse these objects. You can reuse the classes. You can reuse the functions. All right. So Python gives you that modularity. You remember, like you're importing pandas. That's actually a module that is designed for you to reuse. So you can see how many times we reuse pandas, 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 pandas. Same way, you can also create your own modules that you can reuse. So whatever code you've written, you can nicely package it as a function or a class or an object, and then you reuse it in your next project. So you are always writing new code. So that is the very important fundamental. And if you've done something really great, then you can actually publish it to the Python organization. All right, you can actually make it into a package that's available for the rest of us. And that's how Python has grown to the size that it is today, because there's such a huge community developing for Python. All right. So in every little area that you can think of, somebody has actually written a package and put it up for you to download and use. All right. So that's the philosophy behind Python, and it's done very well. Of course, we had to cover specifically statistics, right? And if you played around with pandas, you know that it's already got built-in functions like histogram plot and all those other different probability plots and stuff like that, which is quite handy. All right. So the moment you suck the data into pandas, you can plot it. You can see whether it's a good data set or is it a weak data set? Is it skewed? Do I have enough classes? Do I have enough data? All that stuff can be seen before you start your experiment. All right. So that the first two parts is actually building your fundamental strength in Python programming. Then the third part, which is more on the application side, that means it's like, why are we learning Python? What can I do with Python? You know, what is the use of learning Python? So Python has grown quite extensive. It's dragged its fingers, it's drawn its fingers into many areas. Okay. Of course, some of you wanted to know how can I monetize this, right? That's when monetization comes in. But to me, monetization should be the last thing on your mind, because you must always learn for the sake of learning, and you reach a certain point where monetization is like second nature. That means you don't even have to do any much effort, and it's done. Because when you learn something for monetization, you are actually limiting your learning experience. When you learn for the sake of learning, you just grow, and then you realize, oh, making money is so easy. Huh? I mean, I'm not bragging, but I'm saying that what people ask me to build is so minuscule in terms of how much I know. So that's why I think that you should just continue to learn, and then the monetization part will come by itself. You don't have to force it. Then you know, because a lot of people, I mean, even I had difficult projects because we learn to monetize our learning. That is actually quite the opposite. You should actually learn for the sake of learning, and monetization will come by itself, because you've gone beyond any sort of requirement, and basically anybody can throw anything at the table and you'll be able to solve it. And that is when you should do monetization, because you can handle quite a few things. So that's why it's important to go through the entire learning process, and don't focus so much on monetization at the moment until you are completely comfortable with all aspects of programming. All right. So again, I'm talking about applications from the usefulness for us, right? So let's say you want to come up with an idea to serve an application, not from a monetary perspective, but for yourself, for your own personal use. You can build a web application which requires web APIs. You can build a desktop application, all right, that runs on your desktop. One thing nice about Python, it allows you to run on Linux, on Macintosh, and Windows. So it's pretty broad in that sense. It allows you to build for multiple platforms. It's just another package that you need to import, and then you start doing it, right? So it comes back to that basic stuff. And it was a big concern for me whether to use colab, because colab is actually designed for data scientists. Okay, it's not designed for students to learn Python. But I thought, why not? Because you have all the tools and functionalities there for you. You can do pretty much anything. So I've actually introduced you to Google Colab, because you can actually continue your machine learning and your experiments and stuff like that using Google's cloud computing. All right. So that is a definite plus. All right. Even if you don't use it now, at some point in the future, you will find that it will become handy. And I'm telling you that my estimate is that machine learning is going to creep into every business within the next 2 to 3 years. It's already happening in New York, in the US, in Europe. Everybody is looking for a data scientist to come in and massage the data and do some training and learning. And everybody is lazy. They want a machine to work for them, which I think it's good, not a bad thing. It's just like how we use a hammer every toolkit must have a hammer, that sort of a thing. So every application must have a machine learning component to it. So don't be a foreigner to it. Get started understanding these concepts will help. Okay. Today we are supposed to do animation in keyboards, but I have actually put it for the next class because it's a nice to have. It's just playing around with some animations and stuff like that. I thought of maybe today, since it's going to be 3 hours, I will cover two topics. One is WhatsApp. How do I extract? All of us are in some WhatsApp group, right? And I'm not going to teach you all the naughty stuff, where you can analyze sentiment and all of that. That one you can do on your own. But I will actually help you extract information out of a WhatsApp export file. Okay, if you go to your WhatsApp, I don't have my phone here with me. You can actually go to a group and then click on the more button. And then you will see that there will be a three, it's called the three vertical dots, 3 dots in a vertical line. If you click on that for that chat group, it will show a more button at the bottom. All right. And if you click more button, you will see export chat messages, export messages or export chat messages or whatever. That will actually export the entire text message. It will ask whether you want the media or you want the text file, whatever, and it will dump it into a drive, a Google Drive file. Okay, so so basically the text inside there is a standard text that is generated by WhatsApp. So you are free to use the code that I've given you because I have read the chat messages and then I'm trying to make sense of the messages, like what time, what day, what person's name, all of that is stored in there. But there are some irregularities. If somebody changed their name, then it will appear as a different name. So you may have to do some corrections to that. All right. So, sometimes people, or sometimes if you change their name, and then the name will change because I'm using the name to correlate between the author of the message and then let's say count how many messages by a particular user. Okay, then finally, if we have enough time, I'm going to show you how a self-driving car actually works, but not to the Tesla kind of detail. Okay, it's just a simple image. Okay, and the image is a file, and the computer will read that file and understand what's inside that image. So it will see that there is a road on that image, and then we have a car, and then we are going to drive that car along that path. All right, so we're going to make it turn right when there's right space, turn left when there's left space, go forward when there's forward space, that sort of a thing. So that's the fundamental of how the self-driving cars work. What they have done is they use deep learning, not machine learning, but they use deep learning to figure out where is the road and where is the pavement, and where are all the other objects, where's the sky, where's the tree, and all that stuff. So they actually drive on the road. So it's already classified the pavement, I mean the road, as a particular pathway, and it follows that. And then so the next session will be a little bit on animation and keyboard controls, and then after that we will have to issue all of you with a certificate of attendance, and then we will probably have a photo session. So I'm giving you all a week's notice. It would be nice for us to take a photograph of everyone. Hope your camera is working, and you can be your best. And yeah, just because this is like a trial. I mean, I've never done this before, and I think a lot of groups came together to make this a success. And I think we all need a tap on our shoulder for actually putting up for the past 13 weeks, yourselves and myself, until until the course actually finished. So that's my rundown for the lesson. All right. Okay, so so today we are going to do WhatsApp using Python. All right, and before that, I did promise you that I will talk a little bit about the machine learning part. So so I have a small library of files that I have kind of collected for machine learning, and you are free to use it. Okay, if you just go to lesson number 11, it goes to my machine learning library. So I have some examples of machine learning topics that I have put together. Clustering, house prices, Titanic, the pity the Titanic, they never let it sink. I mean, they keep bringing back up and trying to find out who should have died and who died and who didn't die and all that stuff. So it's quite sad. So, but anyway, it's the most popular machine learning uh, example out there. All right. Then I also found some COVID case Malaysia. I mean, like this is actually by My Sejatra. Yeah, they've posted some data. So again, some example on how to process the data and look at the number of cases and stuff like that. And then we have different techniques that we went through: decision tree, random forest, blah, 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 support vector machines, clustering. For clustering is when you don't know what's going on, you just try to let it cluster. So these are little techniques that will eventually come back. So what I'm trying to say is that machine learning is a 60-year-old technology that where they use mathematics to kind of make a decision. And now in the last 10 years, we've gone into deep learning. Deep learning allows us to learn a lot more that even humans do not know. That means, like, if I give it enough pictures of women, it will start to think that the woman is a cat, because some women have cat eyes, and it starts to kind of learn beyond what we've actually, it starts to look for patterns inside patterns inside patterns, and just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And that is one of the reasons why we have self-driving cars. Okay, because without that sort of technology, deep learning, self-driving cars won't happen. What natural language processing, where we try to understand language, won't happen. So deep learning has contributed greatly to human cognitive interpretation, especially artificial intelligence. So it is definitely a technology that we will be, I think in the past 2 or 3 years, it's just exploded in terms of the amount of networks, the amount of models available, the amount of people doing this sort of study. So it's just exploding. So the good news is you can become a data scientist after Form 5. No need degree anymore. That's the good news, because the mathematics that we learn in Form 5 is pretty decent. So that is machine learning. Of course, there are more topics that we could be covered, but just to keep it light, and this is not an exhaustive list, but it's purely to encourage you to try. Okay, so today we're going to talk about WhatsApp, but more importantly, we are going to learn about how to pick up little nuggets of information from a text string, right? So firstly, let's look at a data set that I think I was actually going through a list of possible chat groups to export the content from, when I realized that none of my chat groups are decent enough for me to even publish the content. So I had to find it was a bit difficult to find a good chat group to expose in public. So need to wet the content too much. It became a bit of a pain. So let's see. Let me just check. 1 minute, I'll be right back. Sorry for that, my phone was not with me. I'm going to export a chat group. You can do the same. You can go to your favorite chat group. And then at the top right hand corner, there's a vertical 3 dots. Click on more, and then it's got export chat. Then it will say include media, initializing, please wait. Then you can select your drive, and then oh, it's gone to the other folder, the other directory, because it can select the content. So I have put it in training, and so there is a directory called my drive. Yeah, so there will be a text file like this that it generates the content, right? So so this is basically how the WhatsApp text messages are saved, right? So you can see that there is a particular format in how it actually represents itself, right? So so this is one example. All right, so I can create another chat group. Let me find a chat group that's decent enough to be shared. Okay, maybe I'll just you can use whatever chat group you want, because you don't have to share it with anybody. So I just created a new group and I have uploaded the data. Okay, so this is a company file. So I have this. So it's actually downloading. It's actually starting to put all the content slowly. So you can do that same thing. You can just export to your G drive and it will generate. So if I were to open this file, you can see that that it's got a particular format, all right, in terms of the date and then the time, and then it's got a bit of a dash and then the message to it, and it's going to follow this particular format. So you need to look a bit deeper and see that it's got the date specified as 2 digits starting with a 0 and then for anything below 9, same for month, and then the year, comma, and then the time, then you have the AM PM indicator. All right, so that is going to be the start of every sentence. So this is going to be at the start, and you can see the time has got the start, and then there are some emojis also included inside the text file. All right, so the text editor is intelligent enough to actually show you the emojis that are being used. All right, and then sometimes there is multiple lines, right? And then sometimes it's all in one single line. So these are things that we need to cater for. And now we're going to learn how to actually decipher this. All right. So what I'm trying to get at here is that whatever you learn from this particular exercise, you can actually apply to any sort of text message. All right, because regular expression is available in C++, it's available in Java, it's available in Python, Perl, PHP, whatever language. All right, and they all pretty much use the same library. This library is actually written in C++, but it's shared with all the other different languages. So whatever you're going to learn here is going to help you tremendously in other languages as well. But Python has got, it's such an easy way to actually make use of regular expression in Python. All right. So before we get started on this, I hope you would have by now exported a text file into your drive, or you can even, if you don't have a drive, you can email it to yourself. All right, and then take that file and upload it to your what is that, your colab. All right, so once you've uploaded it to colab, we can start analyzing that particular file. So I'm going to explain to you how these functions actually work, and you can take advantage of this. All right,